Yo, what's up everyone? Bill here, Classic Rock and Metal Review. Time to tell you all about all the new releases coming up. These are just regular commercial releases, stretching all the way to November actually. Over 60 of them. It's really it's kind of hard to believe. We only, as you know, focus on, like the channel name would suggest, classic rock and metal, and just that genre, those two genres alone. Over 60 releases coming up in the next 3 months. Pretty awesome that the best music ever continually gets replenished. And yeah, maybe a little rehashed, but we just can't get enough. So bring it on, I say. Let's also bring on our drink of the day. Guys, I got to kind of take it easy today a little bit. I already had a beer, but let's see. Some Tito's vodka, orange, peach, mango, I think is the juice. And I also have some pineapple juice on hand, so 4 juice mix. Pretty hot day out there. Not unbearable, but worthy nonetheless. Okie dokie. Was that a little loud? Might have been. Cheap microphone. All right, guys, we're also going to do 4 reviews. These are albums that are new to me, not anywhere near new, but we're talking about Bob Marley and the Wailers, one of those, I already showed you it before, original cuts. Early stuff, pre-official album releases, at least as far as the international releases go, before that. And the actual album doesn't really give you dates and things, so let's just leave it at that. The Cars, their last album with the original lineup, I think it was their 6th album, Door to Door. Picked that one up, I don't know, around Christmas or January. Just got into that recently, 3 or 4 listens. Thin Lizzy's Chinatown. I actually got that last year, along with 4 other albums by the band that I didn't have prior. This is the one that just stuck out to me. Instant favorite. I love it. So if you do, stick around. If not, I'll try to change your opinion. And last but not least, Jackson Browne, Lawyers in Love, 1983 album. Kind of interested in getting some early 80s Jackson. I pretty much just have 70s stuff from him. Used to have a few things on cassette that are gone. I just got Lawyers in Love on CD probably within a month. So let's do a review of that one. But let's get to all the great stuff coming out, guys. It's pretty incredible. Something that we missed over a week ago, or I've neglected to tell you. We actually haven't done this episode in a couple months, so definitely some stuff in the cracks there. One of them being on August 4th, UFO came out with Hollywood, 1976. I'm not even sure if this is, I think it's a gray market album. Live album, obviously with Michael Schenker there. That looks good. Let's go back to a few days ago now. These all came out August 11th. Uriah Heep, History of Uriah Heep, 1978 to 85, 2 CD, live and studio collection sort of thing. Along the same lines, kind of. Riot, they've had a couple of archives releases come out in the last few years. This one, Volume 3, 1987 to 88. And this one's actually a CD and DVD. Rough mixes and demos on the CD. Live in Texas, 1988 is on the DVD. So cool Riot there, continuing with their archive series. Speaking of which, Neil Young, Chrome Dreams just came out, the unreleased 1977 album. A lot, or most of these songs came out on other albums eventually later on, but here's what it would have sounded like had it originally come out. Songs that were recorded between 74 and 77. It'll be 2 albums or 1 CD for that release. Haven't heard much about it, but you can rest assured it's awesome. I mean, it's almost like a greatest hits, really. George Lynch and Jeff Pilson, Heavy Hitters, Volume 2. Heavy cover songs of pop and rock songs. Volume 2, as you can imagine with the title. David Bowie, the Ziggy Stardust soundtrack. 50th anniversary, 2 CDs or 2 albums on that guy. Tank, 1982 debut reissue. Filth Hounds of Hades. Just was supposed to come out August 11th. I think it got pushed back a little bit because I pre-ordered that a few months ago and I got a notice that it was delayed. So I think it's just a UK thing. Not sure what the deal is with that. Coming, I think, October now. Cinderella Live at the Key Club. This is a reissue from 1998 concert that apparently had no overdubs, live in Hollywood. That's your recently released stuff from August 11th. August 18th, Hozier, he's a newer artist that I'm into. I only have one album from him, or maybe two, but this one, Unreal Unearthed, his latest studio album, August 18th. Derek Trucks Band, a reissue of their Songlines album is out there, coming soon rather. Richard Wright, his 1978 solo album debut, Wet Dream. Steven Wilson remix, coming out soon. I pre-ordered this. This will be great. Man, I can't wait to hear it. It's a really, really good album. I would say, of all the Floyd solo albums, it's in the top three. Probably Amused to Death and On an Island from Gilmore, and Wet Dream. But Wet Dream, probably the most Floyd-like of the three, really. I mean, you know, debatable, but I think it really draws from, say, 72 to 77 Floyd strongly. It's a really good album, so I can't wait to hear what Steven Wilson does with that. You can count on a review of that one. Bitches. Grace Potter, solo album, Mother Road. I haven't heard much from her. I think I only have her debut with the Nocturnals, which is a really good album, so really been missing out on some of her material. August 18th, Mother Road. August 25th, Alice Cooper, Road, name of this album. Studio album, but recorded with his touring band for a change. Udo with an album called Touchdown. Vandenberg, Sin, comes out August 25th. Another live UFO, live in Vienna, 1998. Sammy Hagar reissue, guys, of his debut solo album from 1976 called 9 on a 10 scale. Carmine Appice, Guitar Zeus, 25th anniversary. It's 3 CDs where he has various guest guitarists come on there. This one has 2 new songs on it too. Tom Kiefer solo album, Cinderella frontman, called Rise. Rick Wakeman, the original soundtrack to the film She, comes out August 25th. And then Atlanta Rhythm Section has a 2 CD collection with unreleased studio and live songs. 6 unreleased live songs. I think 7 unreleased studio songs, if I'm not mistaken, on that guy. All right, let's plow ahead to September 1st specifically. Peter Frampton at Royal Albert Hall. Concert from last year, 2022. 9 songs live, single album, single CD. Phil Campbell, former Motorhead guitarist. Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons. Kings of the Asylum, the name of this album, coming out. Pink Floyd's Metal Reimagined by various artists, coming out again September 1st. Carmine Appice is on here. Bob Daisley, Martin Barr, Dweezil Zappa, Jeff Downes, Rick Wakeman, among others. I think Graham Bonnet's on there. Joe Bouchard from Boyster Cult. Looks pretty cool. Steve Stevens from Billy Idol Band. Decent. I can't wait to hear what that's going to be an interesting listen. I'm not saying I'm buying it, but I'm going to probably definitely check it out. Also on September 1st, Saxon, some reissues from their 90s and 2000s. Unleash the Beast, Solid Ball of Rock from 2001, Inner Sanctum from 2007. Not remastered, just reissues. Missing Persons, first live album ever. A Night in San Francisco. It's definitely from early 80s, but I couldn't even pinpoint a year on this thing or a date. But the set list makes it look like 1983 to me. That should be cool. David Lee Roth, reissue of his 2003 album Diamond Dave, coming all on September 1st. All right, let's move ahead to September 8th, 38 special, expanded, remastered albums, 2 of them, and they're on Rock Candy, so they should be cool. The 1982 album Special Forces, and the one prior, Wild Eyed Southern Boys from 1981. Live tracks as the bonuses. No new material as far as I remember on those. Also, same date, 2 releases from Night Ranger, get Rock Candy reissues. These are just remastered but don't have any bonus tracks at all. The 82 debut Dawn Patrol and the 1983 Midnight Madness from Night Ranger. Kind of interesting stuff there. UFO, another live album called One Night, Lights Out 77. Live from the Agora Ballroom in Cleveland. Should be awesome. Schenker there, obviously, still. Todd Rundgren, Ultrasonic Studios, 1972 live. I think this was only part of a larger box set prior. Standalone release. Fleetwood Mac, Rumors live. 2 CDs or 2 albums. LA Forum, 77 Rumors Tour. Double live album. The Doors live at the Matrix, 1967. maybe you can consider this a sort of deluxe edition. It's all 3 CDs of the complete tapes from the owner, one of the 2 owners of the Matrix Club, I believe in LA, recorded not, I don't think, all of the gigs there when they played for multiple nights in a row, but everything that he did record is coming out on these 3 CDs. Now, a lot of cover songs on here, but there are some stuff that would end up on their debut also. It's supposed to be limited edition, I believe, too, so there's another reason to maybe grab this one. Another George Lynch. This dude is just pumping out some product, man. Guitars at the End of the World, his 2nd instrumental album, all of those last batch there, September 8th. September 15th. It just keeps getting better, it really does. Now this is kind of interesting. I have been, I mentioned this before when I talked about Volume 4 Deluxe Edition with Sabbath and a couple other versions of deluxe editions I thought should probably try this style. This is how I listen to these things when I get them. If you have a disc full of demos and rough ideas, and then a disc of alternate takes where the songs are pretty much done, but they're still working on getting final takes. And then you finally, at last but least, have your new remastered versions we've already known and loved. So why is disc 1 always the one we already know? Disc 2, basically almost the same, just sort of alternate takes. And disc 3, I would like to hear, I've already mentioned this a couple times before, I would rather hear the progression of songs from demo to finished product. Well, someone's listening, and his name is Steve Miller. Steve Miller Band, it's called J50. The Evolution of the Joker is the full name of this. It's a 2 CD set that focuses on the 1973 album The Joker. And he actually pretty much does what I'm saying to do. Where first of all, you get 6 songs live from 1972, which is kind of cool. I'm not even sure there's Joker material on that little live set. But I think that was almost kind of like filler, sort of bonus. Yet it's at the beginning of this CD. So then what happens is you get at least 1 demo, sometimes more than 1, of each song on The Joker. You get a demo, then you get an alternate take, sometimes maybe a live take or a rehearsal take. Then you get a new remastered version of the song. And before that, he actually outdoes my idea. He introduces the songs before even playing the demos or anything. You get so Steve comes on and lays it all out there for the idea of the song, gives you the history behind it. Then you get a demo, then you get an alternate take, then you get a remastered version, and he does that for all, I believe there's 9 songs on The Joker. September 15th, J50, The Evolution of the Joker. I just love that idea. That's cool, Now, personally, I'd rather have all the demos on 1 CD and alternates on another CD kind of thing, because I'm not sure you want to hear everything every time you listen to it, but I love my idea. All right, also the 15th, The Who. We're getting a giant box set from Who's Next coming up in a couple months, but on the 15th, you can get a new remastered version of just the standalone album, Who's Next. I think there's also a double CD coming out, Best of the Box, plus the remastered CD also. Also, September 15th, Relentless, the 14th album from The Pretenders. A couple of reissues from Slade. One called Beginnings, their debut, and then another, Alive, which is a 1980 live album from Reading. I think it's called Alive at Reading is actually the full name on that one. Just reissues, no new material on either of those. Ronnie Romero, Too Many Lies, Too Many Masters, solo album. And John Mayall's Blues Breakers, live in 1967, Volume 3. Cool lineup here of John Mayall, Peter Green, Mick Fleetwood, and John McVie. Kind of cool stuff there. On September 22nd, Firefall, Friends and Family. These are covers of bands that the members of Firefall were either in prior or after Firefall, or bands that opened up for Firefall, or usually it was Firefall opening up for. Just basically a covers album, but loosely associated with the band somewhat. Paul Rogers. This is a solo album of all originals called Midnight Rose. Digipack CD or vinyl album for this one. Jackson Browne debut album. Some call it Jackson Browne, others call it Saturate Before Using. Either way, it's coming out remastered on September 22nd. So remastered reissue, basically CD or 180 gram LP. Either one will feature a burlap cover with the texture of the burlap water bag that's on the front of the album. That's kind of awesome. I'm not sure if that was how it originally came out or not, but still pretty cool. Another thing from September 22nd, Evil Lives, a tribute to Black Sabbath. This was originally a 2004 album with various artists. You have Carmine and Vinny Appice on here, Vince Neil, Tim Ripper Owens, Michael Schenker, George Lynch, others. Kind of cool. George Lynch, once again, this one's on September 29th. Orchestral Mayhem, a 2014 reissue. Also the 29th, KK's Priest, The Sinner Rides Again, second album from these guys. Moving forward to October. Neil Young, Odeon Budokan is the name of this, 1976 live album, first time on vinyl, half of it from Japan, half from London. Moving forward to October 6th, Joe Bonamassa, Blues Deluxe Volume 2. Trevor Rabin, solo. Rio, former Yes guitarist. And Roger Waters, Dark Side of the Moon Redux. Sort of a remake. I don't like what I've heard so far at all. UFO, Hot and Ready in Texas, 1979. A fourth UFO live product out in the last couple months by this point. Paul Chapman era, for those of you that dig that era. I do. I think he sounds great. October 27th, Motley Crue, a standalone LP replica of Shout at the Devil on CD. No bonus material, just a replica of the album on CD. Finally, guys, November 3rd, a couple of Alice in Chains reissues. These will be in digipacks. Black Gives Way to Blue, their 2009 album, and Devil Put Dinosaurs Here, 2013. Jorma Kaukonen Christmas album, just that's simply called Christmas. Reissue, this was originally an album he put out in 1996. Christine McVie, In the Meantime, a 2004 album from her. New mix on that one. It'll be the first time that it's out on vinyl. There will be a stream-only Atmos mix of it, also, if you're a Christine fan. And another Christine McVie release on same date, November 3rd, from 1984, her second album, a reissue only with no extra tracks, self-titled basically. Self-titled second album, Christine McVie. Guys, that'll do it for, I think that was 64 or 65 new releases coming up just in the next 3 months or so. Pretty awesome. Let's move on to our first review. Bob Marley and the Wailers, original cuts. This one on Hippo Records, 2004. Now, guys, I know there are probably 30 or 40, who even knows, how many early version CDs you can get from these guys. I don't know if it's just public domain. Basically, they didn't have contracts back then when they were recording these early songs, so sort of basically the same thing as public domain. But let me just get into it a little bit. 24 songs on this one. 13 of them would appear on the Island Records official albums that came out from 73 and later. So let's talk about those first. The 13, as you can imagine, they're stripped down versions, rougher, more raw. They were recorded in Jamaica. Small studios there, and production fair at best. Overall, the structures of the songs pretty much intact with the later versions. Slight differences here and there. A few of the instruments can be a little different in places, which makes it kind of interesting. Sun is Shining, for example. There's a harmonica where there would later be guitar leads. These would have made good bonus tracks, especially on deluxe editions. Of the albums, the respective albums they would be on later on. Especially, like I said, the deluxe editions, because a lot of those deluxe editions would have like a bonus concert that would be an hour. There was room on a lot of those deluxe editions to put things like this. Now, I guess it was probably there's probably 100 versions of all these songs out there, or at least multiple, let's say. But, they could have just spent a little time digging these up, picking the best, and getting them onto the deluxe editions. My takeaway after listening to one of these, listening to this once, it would make an interesting occasional listen for somebody like me. Big fan, has all the regular studio albums, you know. Never heard these things before. I mean, we're talking, these songs are from like the late 60s, maybe 1970, early 70s. Now, the official albums didn't start coming out till 73. So, you know, I mean, more primitive, you know, they just sound really ska, you know, not really reggae. Biggest takeaway from this after one listen was how significant Chris Blackwell, his knowledge of British and American classic rock tastes, how he had an idea to mold those guys into something like that. And if you just listen to this and you're not really a fan of reggae or Bob Marley or the Wailers, to you that, you know, that sounds really reggae, right? Let me just tell you, it doesn't sound half as reggae as these original versions kind of do. They just all have that sort of ska, bouncy beat going on. There's really no drums. There's percussion there, but it sounds like wood blocks and things. So there's no really guitar. There's no electric guitar in any of this stuff. So yeah, the songs are the same, structurally, lyrically, pretty much the same. A couple small differences here and there. But it's just the whole vibe. This whole vibe on here is very late 60s, early 70s, and just totally unaffected by Chris Blackwell's sort of guidance. So lacks the punch, you know, of, and in some cases the whole flow and tempo, you know, that the songs would have later, because a lot of them have sort of that same bouncy ska tempo. Simply put, the later versions sound better, more rock oriented, and they're just on another level all the way around, really. The book that I'm reading, So Much Things to Say, you know, it's kind of funny, man. I had that opinion, I told you that opinion of Chris Blackwell's influence being a really good one for the band. And they knew it, you know, Marley knew it for sure. Tosh had mixed feelings about it, but he kind of went along. He knew, I think he kind of could sense that Chris Blackwell knew what he was talking about with the record industry. I just read this literally this morning. I'm on like the last 30 pages of that book. And somebody who, forget his name, but he was within the band's family, sort of around the band for almost a decade at this point. By 1980, he was made producer of the band, as opposed to the guy who had been producing them all along. And I think Chris Blackwell was a co-producer. He was more of just much of an engineer, it sounds like, too, actually. He talks about doing the Survival album that came out in 80 and saying exactly what I'm saying. Chris Blackwell gets some slack for, you know, profiting off this Jamaican band. But this guy in the book, basically, the producer of Survival, I'm sorry I don't have his name written down, I should have did that, says just what I told you last episode before I read it in this book. His guidance and knowledge in the studio doesn't really get enough credit, honestly. At least that's what he was saying. So, and I agree. So now there's a couple of songs that are on here that the book actually spends a couple pages on. I'm talking early in the mid to late 60s kind of thing. So it was cool hearing these were songs that the band was big on. Thought was really going to make them, you know, at least make them bigger in Jamaica, if not out further out. But second song in, Small Axe, that's a couple pages in the book. Bend Down Low, that's the fourth song. Now I heard that's in one of the Bob Marley story videos. You know, I think it's like the bonus DVD in the Live at the Rainbow 2 DVD set. It used to be a standalone VHS that I used to have 100 years ago. And Bend Down Low is one of the first hit songs, might be the first hit song they ever had. So that's on here, that's cool. So there's also a couple of really interesting instrumentals towards the end. One that's called Grooving Kingston. I think it's basically Trenchtown rock, but just music for the most part, if I'm not mistaken. That's a really cool one. Another cool one called Ammunition. So I have paid a couple of dollars for this. That's all you really need. I would say this is my recommendation. If you're a Bob Marley and the Wailers fan, you never tried one of these cheap, you know, bargain bin albums that have all their early stuff kind of thing. This one's probably as good as any. 24 songs, 13 of them you know, and 11 that you probably don't if you just have the Island record / Tough Gong releases. So, as a fan, as a companion to all of those, it's a good like 7.5. I want to go nuts about it. It's not awesome. But Very interesting. Definitely a good one for Bob Marley and the Wailers fans. And seeing what was up with the early roots reggae sort of history. All right, guys, Jackson Browne's Lawyers in Love. This is his 7th album from 1983. It's on Electro Asylum Records. And pretty cool album cover, you got to admit, man. That's one you kind of stare at for a little bit, right? At least I think so. David Lindley, this is the first album that he's not playing guitar on a Jackson Browne album. Rick Vito and Danny Korchmar get that task on this one. Definitely embraces the sound of the time, early 80s. Got some synthesizer in there. Fortunately, I would say overall, it's kind of kept in check for the most part. And guitar's nice and clear, most of the songs. Still somewhat rock, sort of the way that 1980, his prior album, Holdout was, but definitely a little more leaning towards the synth kind of thing than Holdout was. Obviously, it's 3 years later. What do you expect? The album overall, and I think there were 3 singles from this album, were fairly successful. Not a smash, but definitely did pretty well. First time, I only heard this for the first time maybe 3 weeks ago or so. Basically, what do I know going in? I know Lawyers in Love, which I think's a really good song, and Tender as a Night, which I kind of thought was a really good song too. So after a first listen, guys, it's really the only 2 songs I kind of liked. You know my deal. Let me give you the history with that. Why I never just judge anything without at least 2 listens. There were a couple albums back in my early collecting days, heard them once, put them aside, eventually gave one of them another chance. I had 2 or 3 albums that I was like, they suck, I'm not going to listen to those ever again. But I didn't get rid of them. Listened to one of them again, and I was like, man, I was totally wrong. Something about that second listen, things start to click. Second listen to this, started to look at it more like a 3, maybe a 4-song album. Now, I've heard it, guys, like 4 times at this point. So let's just go down the songs one by one. There's only 8 of them. Not going to take that real long. Lawyers in Love. Guys, I love this song. I've always liked this song. It's one of these songs where it was big at the time when it came out. And you didn't really hear it a whole lot. Even when classic rock came back in the mid-'80s. Was all the rage. You still heard it here and there, but not a ton, really. So here's a good song, and it never really got beaten to the ground either. I'll never forget the video. Here's a blast from the past for some of you guys. If you had HBO at this point, my section of Philadelphia wasn't wired for cable until 86. But we had HBO in like 79 or 80. Special antenna up on the roof and all that shit. And between movies, they would put on a show called Video Jukebox. That used to be awesome because we didn't have MTV, obviously, with no cable. So it was Video Jukebox. Some of the video jukeboxes were 30 minutes, some were an hour. They were whole shows, no host or anything, just videos. I just remember the Lawyers in Love video with the guitar silhouetted over everything else going on behind it. Just remember that I feel like it was an A chord being held on the guitar with that little note. I don't know, it's such a simple riff, but it's such a great chord hook kind of thing. Love it. All right, so Lawyers in Love gets a total thumbs up from me. Next song, On the Day, real heavy, like 3-note dirge as the rhythm of the song. First time I heard it, thought it was really kind of simplistic. Second time, I was like hooked on this song. This song is, I think, my second favorite song now. Really cool. Melodic chorus that just sticks with you. Nothing fancy with this song. Just a really good one. Cut It Away. It's not great, but it's decent. I'll even say very good. There's a great, the Fender guitar on here is just the overwhelming, dominating instrument and really sounds good. Not that the production on here is top notch. Could just be the age of this thing. This looks like an original 80s CD. But the Fender guitar in here sounds really crisp and clean, pretty good and a decent song. Downtown, don't really dig that song. I just don't like it much at all. They just don't do it for me. I don't know. If 3 or 4 listens don't make me like something, I'm just probably not going to like it.
Tender is the Night. You know what? I thought going in, I really, really love hearing this song again. It's not really all that, you know. It's good. It's not great. You know, I don't need to talk about it too much. You guys know that song. Knock on Any Door. Decent enough mid-tempo song. It almost sounds like it's kind of song that would be in a movie. You know, like at the end, right before they walk down the street and the credits roll. It's okay. Kind of grew on me on those subsequent listens. So it's decent, but not great. All right. So overall, I mean, say it isn't true. That song kind of sucks, honestly. Definitely a clunker. Downtown's probably pretty much a clunker too. For a rocker, it's okay. I don't know. Some people seem to really like this song. I don't know. I think it was like his encore on this tour, maybe. I don't even know. I just feel like it's. I've seen it in set lists. It was a single. I don't know. It's not bad, but it's not that great. I don't think. It's just pretty simplistic, and the keyboard just doesn't stop with that little over and over with the little sort of 4-note hook. I guess it's supposed to be. It's not hooking me. Overall, guys, not a great album. A few great songs, a couple of good songs, but you know what, guys? When you have an album with only 8 songs on it, you got to do better than 4 or 5 out of 8. So I can only really give this thing, I'm going to probably give it like a 6.4. All right, that's all the best I can do for Lawyers in Love. All right, guys, next up, Thin Lizzy's Chinatown. 1980, originally on Mercury Records. We're going to be taking a look at this deluxe edition. Actually, it was multiple different labels. I think it was Sanctuary in the UK, Warner Brothers in the US, something like that. Mercury somewhere else, Canada maybe. This is a Mercury Records deluxe edition. I never had the regular version, so. However, I'm only going to talk about the regular album, disc 1, not the deluxe edition for this one. I only got this, like I said, last year, and this was my first time ever hearing it, other than the title track. 10th album, Snowy White comes in to replace Gary Moore, who only stopped by for an album and tour. Darren Wharton makes his first appearance on keyboards, who would become a permanent member, I think, by the tour, somewhere along there. Otherwise, you got Phil, Scott Gorham, and Brian Downey on drums. So the core of Lizzy here, plus Snowy White and Darren Wharton. Sounds like, from what I can tell about this one, the recording process was pretty chaotic. Obviously, drugs going on. But, however, Phil was also simultaneously recording a solo album. Sometimes in the studio recording songs for this, the band wasn't sure which album these songs were for. Phil's solo album or the next Lizzy album. So there were also other musicians in and out of the studio who were, you know, involved with the solo material. So sometimes they would linger during the Chinatown sessions kind of thing. They also changed studios when the recording was running so long that the studio just basically was booked for someone else at some point, and they had to utilize a different studio to finish the record. So they were also touring while recording this record. So some small tours in amongst. So as you can see, this is a really chaotic kind of situation. You also have a brand new guitarist in the fold. Despite all that, guys, I don't know how, but somehow to me, this sounds like one absolutely cohesive sounding record. It doesn't sound scattered and all over the place. It really sounds like it was all just recorded within a couple weeks. It just gives me that vibe. And I don't know. It has a sound to it that sort of carries through the whole record. I think it's excellent. All right. We got to break it down a little bit, of course. But you know what? Last year, guys, at that point, the only thing I had was a best of, and then the 3 main albums that everyone needs to have: Johnny the Fox, Bad Reputation, and Jailbreak. So they were the only 3 albums that I had for Lizzy for about like 10 years, guys. Really. And I also have like 3 concert videos from them. But so I was, I don't know, just looking for some more Lizzy, and I wanted the deluxe editions. Why not? Why go halfway with guys what is definitely one of my most favorite bands Bands that I've gotten into in the last let's say 3 decades that are my favorite, it's Thin Lizzy. I didn't get into them until about when I was like 35-ish or something. 15, 18 years ago, tops. I had nothing by them at all. Now I love them to death. Really into Lizzy, all right? So last year, looking for some more material, I figured, why just get the regular albums? Let me just see if I can grab some deluxe editions. Somebody was auctioning off 6 of them at the same time. Fightin', which I didn't have. Nightlife, which I didn't have. Black Rose, Chinatown, Jailbreak, and Johnny the Fax. So 2 of them that I already had. 4 albums I didn't have at all yet. Played it out, waited till the last second, bid like $200 and got them. All 6 of them. In hindsight, great move. All right, the only one I need now is Thunder and Lightning. I don't have that at all. Anyway, really got lucky because just one of these can go for like $75 or $100. So really happy. Let's get back to Chinatown. Let's just start going down the songs. We Will Be Strong, opener. It's kind of along the melodic side. It might be a little different than a lot of the past Lizzy. We're a little less dark lyrically and even musically. First impression with the sound, it's tight, it's punchy, it's 1980s production, you know. The snare hits can be really short, you know. Those annoying snares from the mid-80s where there's a ton of echo, reverb, whatever. There's like none here. It's a quick hit, you know, almost, which I don't want to say it's worse. It's definitely not worse, but it's a little weird because it's more just like a quick beat kind of thing. That's really it. It's not even a big deal. The sound is very 1980. It's a little more modern, but you know what? This song's pretty good. I like We Will Be Strong. It's not one of the best on the album, but I'm fine with it. Chinatown, now I did have, like I said, I had those 3 main albums from Lizzy. Also had Dedication, The Best Of. That was my first Lizzy album. Chinatown was on there. I love Chinatown from pretty much the first time I heard it. And I still do. I really get into that song when I hear that song on. Chinatown's awesome. Sweetheart, little different, but I feel like it's a nice meeting of, you know, that softer side of 70s Lizzy and the modern sort of, you know, it's got that synth that goes right along with the guitar for the hook during the chorus. You know, many bands couldn't jump to the 80s, you know. Foghat comes to mind. They couldn't mix their rock sound from the 70s with synthesizers and things. Weren't able to change with the times. This song sounds like one that changed with the times and worked, in my opinion. I like Sweetheart a lot. I think it's great. Sugar Blues, just an awesome song. Lightning quick riffs are just amazing. I love Sugar Blues. Killer on the Loose. Now, I'm going to tell you, man, top 10 single in the UK. Still getting played nowadays here and there with the tribute Lizzy shows that are going around. Got played some back in the day, too. This is my least favorite song on the whole album. Just very basic. Just so basic. I don't know. Just none of the twists and turns that make the best Lizzy songs great. You know, just how I feel. I don't know. Having a good time. Really good one. I just love that beat. Get your head bobbing, you know. That acoustic sort of 2-strum thing they do kind of reminds me of She Knows. You know, able to just incorporate a couple of strums into the rhythm. Otherwise, rock, electric rhythm. I think it goes great. I love having a good time. I don't know. Some people might think it's corny, maybe. I don't think it's corny. I love this song. Genocide. Going back when I only had those first 3 albums from Lizzy, and I didn't even have them long, a year or 2. And Rock Palace was on my Comcast on demand for free. They put this stuff up, you can on-demand things for free. Rock Palace ended up on there at one point, and I taped it off there, or recorded it with a DVD recorder. The song Genocide. The first time I heard that song, I liked it. Kind of almost progressive with the beats and the stops and the starts and the stutters with the singing. But I'll tell you, man, you know, and it's one of the few sort of dark, serious songs on this album. I just love this song. First listen. I would actually rewind my on-demand to watch that song again. I didn't know what album it was on or anything, you know. It's not like they were real clear with what you were watching. It was basically Thin Lizzy Live, 1981. That was all it said. I didn't know it was Rock Palace or anything like that. So that's where it's from. So now on, as you can see. Love, Genocide, Killing of the Buffalo. Didn't I? This one's kind of ballady. Again, I still probably like it. I'm probably in the minority here, but I still really like this one. What a cool, just a soaring guitar riff that sort of serve as the chorus, because there's not really a chorus per se. I really dig it. Hey You, I like that the album ends heavy. Heavy, another sort of darker one. There's only probably, 3 of them on the whole record out of 9. Great one. I just think it's a fantastic collection of songs. I just love this friggin' album. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I think the songs are great. I think one of the most popular is one of the worst. Killer on the Loose, probably the only one I don't really like much. The other songs, really like them all, if not love them. This is this is going to be an 8.8. You know, when one song out of 10 or one song out of 9 isn't that great. Is it 9? Yeah. Then, can't go 9 plus, but I'll go 8.8. That's about as high as I think I can go safely here. So, love Chinatown by Thin Lizzy. Awesome. All right, guys, let's wrap it up with The Cars, Door to Door, 1987. Elektra Records album, 6th final album with the original lineup, produced by Rick Ocasek himself. He also wrote every song on here. There's one co-writing credit with keyboardist Greg Hawkes, a song called Go Away. So basically what the band was striving to do with this one was they had Heartbeat City, Go Bananas in 1984, multiple big hit songs, multi-platinum album. They take a break, they tour until 85, then they take a break for a year or two. And they basically wanted to, after the really commercial sound of Heartbeat City, wanted to sort of get back to a former new wave and rock sort of sound. They had drum machines were used for most of Heartbeat City, and they wanted to eliminate that, get back to real drums. And also they actually dug into the past and got a couple of pre-debut demos, and they were used on this record. So that was the goal going in. First impression from this one, guys, and I never heard it before until about a month ago. It's a real cross-section of every style that the Cars ever did, and maybe even a little beyond, Not that their albums were ever one style. I mean, hardly. Every Cars album has a mix of styles on it, as you know. But you got some new wave here. You've got some Sold Our Soul pop, real just like light rock pop. Some stuff that's in between, sort of a mix of rock and new wave. Some of the hard rock songs on here are the heaviest songs they ever did. And I think they're the best songs, actually. Some songs, like I said, just a mix of all that. So when they released this, guys, I kind of barely remember this coming out. I just remember seeing it on the new release rack and thinking, it looks corny, kind of thinking, what are they doing? It was almost like everyone knew, the band themselves almost, that their time had come and gone. That's kind of how it felt. That was the impression I got just seeing this on the shelf in the record store. At first, I didn't think I knew any songs from this. However, once I started listening to it, one of them rang a bell. You Are the Girl. It's the second song on here. Light rock, total pop song. And to be honest with you, I think I might have even heard it more in shopping drugstores and things like that, playing overhead. It's that wimpy, back in 87. And then later on in the late 90s, guys, when I was a big video collector, Saturday Night Live reruns, I think they used to be on Comedy Central, believe it or not. But they used to play the musical acts on those reruns. And caught a couple of songs from 87. And those I really kind of liked. I didn't know anything about them going in, but I just recorded them, figured, got some vintage Cars here, I'll tape it. Transfer the tape onto a DVD kind of thing. So I watched it, ended up watching it a couple times. They're really good songs, probably the best on here. So the multiple styles keep things interesting, but at the end of the day, guys, comes down to the quality of the songs. A lot of the songs on here, they're okay. They're not the worst. They're decent. There's a couple that are fair or good. I would say the best of it are those 2 songs from Saturday Night Live, the heaviest songs on here. Not because they're heavy. The songs are just actually catchy. They're almost kind of a little slower, but heavy and slow. Double Trouble and Strap Me In. But Double Trouble is the heaviest thing these guys ever did. Really good one. I also kind of like Fine Line. Fourth song in, Fine Lines. Rick Ocasek. A real sort of atmospheric thing, kind of creepy sounding. And I just kind of like it. I just, I'm sure some other people do. It's got a real sort of aura to it. I like that one. There's a few other softer, more atmospheric things on here that don't work at all. They're just plain boring. When you first hear them, you think maybe they're going to be another Fine Line. They're just not. There's a few other pop numbers on here that just aren't as catchy as You Are the Girl. I think one of them got released as a single too. It's not bad. It's just average at best, So, there's only one or two songs on here that I think kind of suck. But too many of them are just okay. Like I said, I think in 87 you kind of knew it as soon as it came out without even hearing it, basically. It's like their time had come and gone, and that's, it turned out to be pretty foreboding. I think that's how it could be summed up. Love Double Trouble, love Strap Me In. Fine Line's kind of cool, but overall, guys, just a kind of pretty pedestrian record. 6.2 is the rating I'm going to give on the Cars Door to Door. Not a complete write-off, all right? They've come down a notch or two, and even with a couple of old 70s demos being reworked into, new recordings, just doesn't make it work. That's going to be it for the Cars. 6.2 is about as good as I can go. Not garbage, but just a couple great ones, maybe 3. All right, guys, that's going to do it for now. There's all your new releases coming up in the next few months and a couple of reviews of things that were new to me. Guys, hope you all have a good rest of your day. Next thing coming up is going to be the bootleg situation, new releases, and I'll do some reviews. Alan Parsons Project, Allman Brothers Band, some Black Sabbath. You know it. Guys, bad news about Disc Japan. They're down. They got taken down. I'll give you what I know next episode. All right, man. Catch us all later. Everyone, have a good friggin' day.